Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Well, today we are going to try and finish up this shift tower project and see if we can't get it back on the tractor. As I mentioned in the previous video, got to do some weld repair on the shifter, build this up so it sits better in the shift rails in the tower, and then I got to flush that transmission and clean it out and all that. So yeah, but first I want to give a shout out to a couple of tractor clubs. First goes to Olympic Peninsula Antique Tractor and Engine Association. Guys, I haven't forgotten. That's probably backwards in the viewing. But I'm a charter member of that club when it first formed back in the day, early 90s. And the other day, one of my old buddies in that club reached out to me, discovered the channel, and commented on one of the contraption videos, because he remembers well the original contraption and how I held up the Crosby Day Parade with that thing going slow. Everybody was on the showgrounds wondering what the heck happened to the parade. It's pretty Spartan this year. No, it was me holding up traffic. So, yeah. Anyway, to all my pals at Olympic Peninsula, howdy. Good to see you again. And also to Early Days Gas Engine and Tractor Association, Branch 245 up in Shelton, Washington. Know a lot of you guys there as well. So, howdy. Haven't seen you in a long time. Maybe I'll get lucky and maybe make one of the shows or swap meets up there this year, 2022. We'll see what happens. But anyway, back to this shifter. Got to get started on the weld repair. So let's get going on this. Remember what the Shade Tree Fix-It Man and 805 Road King say. The file is your friend. And don't forget the file card. This is the cap for the shift tower. And as you can see, this has had channel locks or pipe wrenches applied to it over the decades. And bung this up pretty good. Now this cap is just formed sheet metal. It's not thick material. And you'll notice right along here on each side there are flats that were formed on here. So you can put a crescent wrench, a spanner on there and loosen that off. Now granted, given decades of exposure to moisture and everything, rust, this thing is going to wind up seized to the threads of the shift tower. Well, in the way of a tech tip, before you go full-blown Bubba and just grab a pipe wrench and start cranking on that and deform the heck out of this, take your torch and gently heat this cap up all the way around. And then grab your spanner and apply it to the flats and start working that spanner back and forth as you apply more heat. And 9 times out of 10, that's going to come loose. This thing is going to expand just enough from the heat to unlock it from those rusted threads and back right off, and then you won't goober up your cap with a bunch of ugly looking grip marks from the serrated jaws of your pipe wrench or your channel lock pliers. There you go. Just a little tech tip for what it's worth. Well, it's not perfect, but it's serviceable and much better than it was before. So let's slip it in the shift tower and see how well it reacts with the shift rails and shift forks. Well, I don't know if you can see in there or not. Very little slop there, and where it engages in the back, just a little bit. Not near as bad as it was before. So I am gonna go with that. I can't get a good enough grip on the vise to really run those rails back and forth. It'll slip. So when I get it, the shift tower back on the transmission, we'll run her through everything. But the initial fit up is good. I'm happy. Well, the next step in putting this shift tower back together is I've got to replace that spring. All the local hardware store had, it's the right diameter and the coils are the right thickness. All they had was a piece a foot long. $8.95. And all I need is 3/4 of an inch. So yeah, do the arithmetic for price per inch. So I'm going to cut this the right length, and then I'll have extra for the Horde if I ever need a compression spring that size again. I'll have some in stock. That spring is going to sit on top of there, and then that cup captivates it, and then the cap goes on. As you can see, I've done a little wire wheeling and painting off camera. I also took a file and dressed the top of this up again because it was pitted pretty bad. I got to do a little bit right there where I didn't paint, just kind of dress that up. And these threads for the shift knob are pretty boogered up too. That's 5/16, so I'll run a die over that and clean that up. I'll do that off camera. And then, yeah, we'll get the shift lever back in the tower with the spring and the cap and all that. And then we'll mount this on the transmission. So, time to move the truck and bring the green bean in. Release the shmoo. Oh, yeah. That's pretty ugly. Pretty ugly indeed. Well, I got to thread this in, kind of like a needle. Got a gasket on the shift tower. Then this metal gasket, it actually kind of acts as not a shield, more like a diverter to channel oil back down into the transmission right off the gears on top. So I kind of got to be Harry Houdini here. All right. That looks good. So I'll let that set up. Then we'll fill the transmission with oil, and we'll set this on top. And then we'll install the shifter last, because I kind of got to thread that. I still got to cut the spring and then thread that in there and, you know, put that together. So, yeah, okay. That's looking good. I'll bring you back when we're ready to put this on the tractor. Well, I'm betting 5/16. You're not going to stay in focus, are you? And let's see. Stay in frame, Stuart. Well, it's 302 thousandths, 303. Well, I'm all over the place. Sorry, 303 thousandths. 5/16 is 312, so I'm a little under. Well, that's understandable, being 85 years old. And of course, it's not going to focus. Come on, there we go. Got a thread pitch of 24. If you can see that or not, I'm doing this one-handed. So 5/16, 24. Just happen to have that right here. So I'll thread this, get the shift knob back on it, and then we'll get this mounted in the shift tower. I'm a big fan of YouTube channel Waylon Wire's Old Iron. He's from my old home state, Washington. Well, he's not from there, but he's lived there for decades. And you've heard me talk about his channel before. And, well, I was watching him the other night. Well, I've seen it on his channel many times before, but it finally struck me that I needed this thing. On his workbench, he's got a pneumatic vise. He hits a foot pedal and the ram comes down and clamps on whatever he's working on, and that frees up both hands to do what he's got to do. And I thought that was pretty slick. So I've done some eBay searching, and there was a guy on there that had a used one for, of course, big money, and I thought, and it was just the air ram, no other piece of a vise. And his looked kind of beat up, and I thought the price was a little high, but it did list the manufacturer. So I went to the manufacturer's website, and lo and behold, there was the same model, brand new, for $10 more than what this guy was asking for on eBay. So I think in the very near future, I will be adding an air vise, and I'm going to make it portable so I can put it on my welding table here, and then the big vise over on against the wall that you guys have seen a million times already on my videos. So yeah, that's the plan anyway. We'll see what happens. You'll notice I'm using my estate sale find of the old Valvoline wheel bearing grease. And it's gorgeous stuff. And when I opened this can, you could just smell the paraffin wafting out of the can. It was beautiful. Well, obviously, I would not use this in a modern vehicle because metallurgy and lubricants have come a long way since the grease in this can was made and put in this can. I'm betting this is 50 years old. But this is great stuff for the old machinery I work on. The old tractors and, I mean, this transmission that this shift tower goes in, it's 85 years old. So it's perfect for that. Anyway, yeah. So, remember, got to stay in frame. Sorry, folks. I get to talking and not watching where I'm at. And so, yeah, I'll slather this on up and we'll continue with the assembly. All right, let's run this down the flagpole, get grease all over everything. I think I'm going to quit buying these Harbor Freight acid brushes because I'm sure they're probably good for certain applications, but man, as soon as I start applying grease, the little brush strands instantly start pulling out of the brush. I've already got this spring cap greased up. And that gets annoying, when you're trying to grease something and your brush is falling apart. A brand new brush, about a whole package of these things, and they seem to work pretty good for light liquids. But as soon as I start slathering on grease, they start coming apart. And so I think I'm going to find a different source for acid brushes. I may have said this before. I quit using Lucas Red Tack grease. That was my go-to when I was living up north in the Pacific Northwest, the cool marine climate Pacific Northwest. Worked fine. I discovered moving here in Arizona, when it gets hot, that Lucas loses its viscosity and turns into oil and starts leaking out of everything. I mean, it was leaking out of the suspension parts of my truck, and then it was melting out of the grease gun. Fortunately, I keep it in a tub in my black cabinet in the back of the shop. So it didn't get out on the floor or anything, but so that's kind of annoying. So I went back to molybdenum grease, which is seems to hold up fine. Doesn't lose its viscosity and turn to oil and leak out all over everything, which, it makes a big mess, and which nobody needs to deal with. Okay, I'm going to finish wiping this shift lever down and some excess off the tower, and we're going to mount this on the transmission. Well, as long as the shift tower is off, it's going to be a little easier filling this up with gear oil through the top rather than through a little plug on the side. And I can see the plug on the side to check for fluid level. real well. So, and that looks like we're full right there. All right, let's get the shift tower on. Okay, moment of truth. See if I don't want to poke you in the eye with the shift lever. Line the forks up. What am I hung up on? Yeah, I'm hung up on something. Hang on, I'll bring you back. Yeah, just a little too far back here. There we go. Okay. Now, these holes are through holes right into the gearbox. So I'm going to treat the bolts with a little gasket goop. This was fine in a 37 Ford sitting under the transmission tunnel, but now it's on a tractor out in the open. That's a direct path for water to get inside. So is this, the shift tower. But on eBay, I found a vendor that was selling vintage, they're new old, not new old stock, but new to fit old stuff. There's a rubber boot for this shift tower. So I'm going to order that up. Anyway, I'm going to goop up these bolts and get them in and tighten them down. And then we'll run this thing through the gears. Reverse. First. Second. Third. All right. Let me clean up the mess. Let's go for a ride. There's always a minor setback when you're working on old iron. In the last clip, I was running this through the gears and I thought, you know what, first and third seem a little stiff, stiffer than they should. And what I realized is they weren't going in all the way because, if you'll notice, I don't know if you can see or not, right in there, there's a recess in the bell housing for the shift rail to go into when you slide it into gear. And first and third were smacking on the top lip of that recess because my gasket was too thick. Remember, I put a gasket on the shift tower, put the metal diverter on there, and then another gasket, which raised this thing too high, and the rails were smacking on those recesses instead of going into gear. Now, first gear on the right there goes all the way in. And third gear goes all the way in. So, I didn't catch that. But, well, yes, I did catch it, but not right away. So now, I also had the tower cap screwed on a little tight, putting a little too much pressure on, so I loosened that off a turn. And let me get the flats where I want them there. So now, reverse, first, second, third. Yeah. Now let's go for a ride. that's enough of that noise. I'm too big for this thing. This is a kid's tractor. Well, that was fun. This was a repair I wasn't expecting to have to do. It just, you know, one of those things in life that sneaks up on you right when it's the most inconvenient. But it happened, and I didn't want to leave it sit while I worked on other stuff, because then something else gets in the way, and something else gets in the way, and there it sits broken forever. So I just jumped on it, got it done, had some foibles along the way, but ultimately we got a success. Working good, smooth. I adjusted the clutch off camera. It's working much easier. And so the little green bean is back in action just in time, because I've got a big 3-day extravaganza coming up this coming weekend, February 4th through 6th, and or 5th through 7th. I gotta look at a calendar. Anyway, this is Sunday, and the 29th of January, 30th of January. So, yeah, I'm glad this is back going, because this is what I'm taking. I would have been done with the Curtis air compressor and the pig by now, but this jumped in the way. But that's okay, because I've got a huge show coming up in March 5th at the Mescal movie set. It's Ghost Town in the Arizona desert. It's where they filmed the movie Tombstone with Kurt Russell and Sam Elliott and the whole cast, which you're probably familiar with, I'm sure. And so we're doing a big show there, and a lot of stuff coming up. But anyway, thanks for tagging along with the bean repair. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm going to be busy filming next weekend at that 3-day event. So hopefully we get some live steam on there too. Big tractor show. So be looking for that coming up. Also got updates on the screen house in the queue. I'm almost done with that video. And then, of course, we'll be back working on the Curtis air compressor and the pig. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.